Adam, can you believe we literally just spent 20 minutes, 20-plus minutes, talking about all the issues associated with Josh Hamilton?
I can't believe it.
The man won an MVP. I'm dumbfounded how we spent 20 minutes talking about all of his issues.
Yeah, and let me just say, I'm not trying to rain on the Josh Hamilton parade. Not
Far from it. Far from it.
Yeah, it's just, what do we love about sports other than to talk about it? And Josh Hamilton is a guy that we can talk about for hours.
For literally days. I'm going to one-up you. I think you could talk about Josh Hamilton, the man, the hitter, the character, for days.
The man, the hitter, the character.
Was that good?
That was good.
It's not bad, right? That's what we get paid to do. That's what we get. We are storytellers. We are poets.
Spin that yarn.
Spin that yarn. But, I mean, seriously, this is a man who is an enigma. He was the natural. And sometimes he still looks like the natural.
A little bit.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And other times he looks like a disappearing act.
Yeah, like the playoffs last year.
Like the playoffs. Like last year's playoffs. But anyways, there was also another pretty big signing. You might have heard about this one. Zack Greinke got a $147 to go to the Dodgers. And he's a guy who also is a bit of a character. You know, he turned off a lot of teams in the past. This year he was quite a commodity, but he also has some big issues. I mean, there are anxiety issues, which is weird, right? Because he's able to get it done underneath the spotlight. I mean, he's going out in front of 50,000 people, and he won a Cy Young.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a guy like a starting pitcher, and he's the guy with the ball in his hands, he's out there and everybody's watching him. And then you say anxiety issues, and you wonder, how does that even happen? How is it that a guy goes out there and can perform at a level that he's able to perform and have these anxiety issues? And that's one of the reasons that I look at it and I say it's overblown.
I mean, how can you point your finger and say, hey, this guy's got anxiety issues?
Right. No, I mean, it was obviously documented that he did have these anxiety issues. This was 4 to 5 years ago. I don't know. He's clearly, to me, a different person than he was then. He's done whatever he's done since then to take care of it, because we've seen a Cy Young year with him with the Royals. We've seen 2 really good years in Milwaukee and a really solid season with the Angels, where he's been a number 1, number 2 starter, a legitimate top 15 starter in the league. And when you put him behind Clayton Kershaw in that Dodgers rotation, they're going to do a lot of damage. They're going to be a really tough team to beat.
In front of Billingsley and in front of Beckett. It's
Yeah.
a solid staff. Goes without saying. And I agree with you. I think, you know, on the macro level, the anxiety issues are not that big. But I think if you sift that fine-tooth comb at his numbers, on the micro level, you can start to see an appearance, a semblance of the anxiety issues.
Maybe.
If you look at his career numbers, he has a 3.77 ERA, okay? But if you look at his independent ERA outside of defense, it drops down to 2.93. And at 2.93, he's on par with Justin Verlander, Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, and Clayton Kershaw. So again, he got paid big boy money because people see that he is capable. And they look at the numbers and say, well, look, if you look at the numbers, if you really, again, sift the fine-tooth comb in his numbers, he is that number 1. But if you just take the numbers as they are without doing any investigative work, they're okay. A 3.77 ERA is not a number 1. It really isn't. And I guess you could say, well, in this day and age, anything under 4 is pretty good. But look, if we're talking $25 million, if you're talking about $800,000 per start, roughly $800,000, the man's making $1 million per start. You would want him to be more of that 2.93 than that 3.77.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, when you're talking about fielding independent statistics like that, you can't automatically say, well, this is the anxiety issues that we're seeing. It's very possible that what we're seeing is the fielding issues that they had in places where he was previously. That's the whole point of fielding independent statistics, that maybe he really is this good. Maybe he really is, maybe not like Justin Verlander, but maybe he is one of those top-tier pitchers in the league, but it's just the teams that have been around him have held him back, not his anxiety issues holding him back.
And that's a valid point. That's a valid point. Maybe it is just that he's had bad defenses behind him. But what I'm trying to point out is maybe it's that he's not very good when the spotlight is on him. Okay? He's good when everything's okay, but when he has the spotlight on him, when his anxiety would actually start to spike, he's not very good. Jason Collette points out in a piece that I read that in 2012, opposing hitters' batting average on balls in play rocketed 67 points when Greinke pitched with runners in scoring position compared to the rest of the time. Now, this was the biggest such spike for any qualified pitcher last season, and he points out that there are all kinds of reasons why such a spike could occur, ranging from how the defense positions itself to a pitcher faring far worse when he's pitching out of the stretch. Okay, and that's
which
valid.
we've seen before. We've seen
Right.
pitchers who do not pitch as well out of the stretch as they do out of the windup.
But he also points out that maybe he's just getting flustered, which gives the offensive player more of an advantage, which would explain the discrepancy between what he's doing and what you think he's capable of doing.
It's all possible. It's all possible. I don't think that we'll ever truly know the answer for why the numbers seem to suggest that he should be a better pitcher than he's performed. I mean, the number you really care about is the number of earned runs he's giving up. That's what we care about for a pitcher. In the end, a pitcher's job is to stop the other team from scoring runs. So you can look at all the peripheral numbers you want. You can talk about fielding, independent, ERA. But at the end of the day, he's giving up more runs than we think he should. Is it anxiety? I don't know. Is it that he's not pitching well out of the stretch? I don't think that we're ever going to have an answer.
And it's possible, and I pointed out 2012, but this article basically says in the last 3 years he's had the worst batting average on balls in play against him when he has runners on base. So it's more than just a small sample size. This seems to be the trend. And again, it's not terrible because as we pointed out, even if he never bucks the trend, he's still a good pitcher. He's still very solid. But, here's another little interesting note is that if you look at, again, the raw numbers for Greinke and you compare them to Anibal Sanchez, who just got 5 years, $15 million for a total deal of $80 million, they're comparable.
Very comparable.
Greinke, 8.7 strikeouts per 9 inning. Anibal Sanchez, 8.1 strikeouts per 9 inning. I mean, you can go through, and they're almost a mirror image.
Yes, but I think with a guy, and let me first say that I like the Anibal Sanchez signing. I think Anibal Sanchez is a really good pitcher. I've always liked him, and I think he deserved that money. But I think that the difference between him and Zack Greinke is that you're getting a guy with a little bit more consistency, a little bit more of a track record, and also a guy where maybe there are anxiety issues. If they're there, I don't know. But you're not talking about Tommy John surgery, which is what you're talking about with Anibal Sanchez.
Valid point, but I think what I'm trying to say is that Greinke got paid on what he could do, not necessarily on what he has done.
Yes, but when we talk about what he will do,
if you were to pay him
what he
based
could
on
do,
what he had done, like realistically what he's actually done, he probably gets closer to Anibal Sanchez money than he gets to Cole Hamels money.
I don't think that's true. I mean, when we look at the year he had in Kansas City in 2009, his Cy Young year, where he had a 2.16 ERA, 16 wins on that terrible Kansas City. How he got 16 wins on that horrible Kansas City team in 2009, I'll never understand. But, I mean, he had 230 innings that year. He was an absolute workhorse. And when you look at a guy who does that in the American League, I don't see how you can look at him and say that he doesn't have the track record to deserve a big dollar deal like this. Maybe not the track record to deserve to be the second highest paid player in baseball, but I'd say he definitely has the track record better than Anibal Sanchez to deserve this deal.
And look, I agree he's better than Anibal Sanchez, but I'm not sure if he's worth, what is that? That's 20, if he's worth $67 million more.
Yeah, I don't think he is either.
Right, and that's the point. I think he's getting paid on what he potentially could do, and at this point, when he's 29 years old, he is what he is.
Yeah, I disagree. When I see what he's done in recent years, I absolutely think that he can regain that 2009 Cy Young form.
Yeah, and I disagree. So we'll call it what it is. We'll call a spade a spade. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk some NFL and some college football. That's right. Get out your pens and papers. We're about to unveil our picks. We're about to make you some straight cheddar. We're going to make you filthy rich. Talk to you guys in a minute.